I'm 18 years old, graduated from high school, loved the Jesuits who taught me, so I entered the seminary. After 2 years of purely spiritual work, 2 years in novitiate, we have 2 years of, this is now back in mid-1950s, right? You weren't even born. Mary was not even. 1950. At any rate, I'm in these 2 years of studies of the classics, Latin and Greek, and I have this professor who is teaching me Greek, Father Hayne Martin. He had his doctorate in ancient languages and all of this, but he also had a master's degree in mathematics and had a vivid interest in astronomy and a good college education, in astronomy. So he would be teaching us the Greek, tragedies or odes from Sophocles. He'd get distracted. There we sat. He'd say, "Gentlemen, do you realize tomorrow is the beginning of spring?" Yeah. Do you know what that means? He'd go to the blackboard. He'd trace the celestial equator, the ecliptic. He'd explain to us the astronomy behind what it means that the sun is, coming into the ecliptic, and it's going to go above the equator. He explained all this to us. Then a week later, he'd, be dancing, actually, teaching some of the odes. And he'd get distracted. He'd scratch his head with a pencil. I think he died of lead poisoning. And he'd say, "We got radio signals from Jupiter." Now, this is way back then. This was great, So I get called into his office. And, I'm 22 years old, something like this, and I'm really nervous. What have I done? Because we went in every month for talk about our Greek themes and all, so this is extra. So I walk in and he looks at me, and we were always very formal in those days. "Mr. Coyne," he said, "why are you so nervous?" "Father, I don't know what this is all about." He said, sit down, don't. He said, "What this is all about is don't worry about your Greek themes. They're not the greatest I've ever seen, but you're doing fine. Why are you sitting on the edge of your chair whenever I start getting distracted and talking about, Father, I love it. I think it's the greatest." So he said, "Well, we'll have to get you reading." And then he leans back and he says, "Oh dear, we have the damnedest, dumbest rule here that a young man like yourself, you're not permitted to read any books. You can't take any books out of the library except in Latin, Greek, and ancient history." He said, "That's dumb." He said, "You have to feed a young person when they have an interest. Whether it's in Beethoven or in sculpture or in astronomy or mathematics or Shakespeare. You have to feed it while they have the interest. It's developing." He said, "What?" He goes like this, picks up the phone. "Margie, could you, if I send in a young student of mine, could he take some books out of the library on my card?" "Oh, sure, Father. I can hear them talking, Just send a little note the first time he comes in." So he gave me his library lending card from the Reading Public Library, which was, we used to go into Reading, Pennsylvania from the novitiate to teach catechism to the street kids, take in little Hershey bars and stuff and get them all, and then read the Bible to them. So I picked these books from the Reading Public Library. And he gave me a flashlight, so I had to pull the blankets over my head at night. The point is, any young person you can appreciate. It's forbidden fruit. It's against the law, but it's good fruit. So the combination, just excited me about astronomy. And that was the beginning of my interest, and then they finally put me into studies. But it has its ups and downs. I'm coming down the corridor one day with a few of these books, and the dean is coming down. I'm going this way, he's coming that way. Mr. Coyne, how are you? Father, how are you? He says, what do you have there? I have some books. I said, what kind of books? I said, you know, the kind of books you read. Where did you get these books? So I had to tell him, what am I going to do? You know, Father Martin said that, you know, it'd be great if I got, nourished my interest. He told me I was doing okay in my studies, and, you know, it was, you know. He goes into Father Martin's office. I mean, I could hear them screaming and shouting, and I think they were throwing books at one another. So he comes out, walks by me like, I say, I have to apologize. You know, Father Martin has been so good to me, and look what I've created. So I walk into his office. He said, what, I told you. I said, Father, I just wanted to apologize. He says, for what? I heard you out there. Are you? Oh, he said, don't worry about that. That happens about every 2 weeks. Well, I think you get the point. There is, as I expect you are, Bill, a great teacher. When young people have an interest, feed it. Whatever it is.